I've spent most of my life in a world that never really stops talking, a world where every step I take is followed by cameras, flashing lights, and voices chanting my name. On paper, it sounds like a life no one could ever feel lonely in. Thousands of people surrounding you, stadiums filled with screaming fans, and yet there's a silence that hits you the moment the crowd fades, the applause dies down, and you are left with yourself. That silence is where I live most nights. I'm Kim Taehyung, though some know me as V, some as T, some just as the guy from BTS. Most of the time, those names feel like masks I wear, masks I adjust depending on who's looking, what they expect me to be. But today, I want to take the mask off, just for a little while, and speak as Taehyung, just as me. People always ask if I'm okay being alone. They ask it in interviews and passing conversations. Don't you enjoy solitude? They say with that casual curiosity. And I smile, sometimes laugh, make a little joke about needing time to work on music or rest, to breathe in quiet moments. And yes, part of that is true. I do enjoy solitude. I need it. My mind is a storm most of the time, and quiet is the only way to catch my own thoughts. But there's a difference between choosing solitude and being trapped in it. There are nights, in hotel rooms I barely remember, listening to the hum of an air conditioner, staring at city lights, and I know exactly which kind of alone I am feeling. For years I told myself it was fine. Music comes first, team comes first, career comes first. Love, relationships, intimacy, those were always things that could wait. I had songs to write, stages to prepare, schedules to keep. I thought that if I stayed busy, if I poured all my energy into creating, performing, surviving, I could ignore the hollow ache in my chest. But the truth, which I am only now admitting to myself, is that I'm not as okay with it as I pretend. Not in a dramatic, desperate way, but in a simple, human way. I long for someone to come home to. Someone who isn't a screen, a microphone, or the glow of a phone. Someone who sees me, not the career, not the spotlight, just me. Talking about love like this is different. I've always processed pain through music, channeled my fears, insecurities, heartbreaks, and loneliness into lyrics, beats, and melodies. Music has been my safety net, the place where I could control my emotions, mold them, shape them, even hide them behind harmonies. But talking plainly without a verse or a hook about what I want in someone else, that's raw. That's unprotected. And yet I feel it's time to try because I've realized something crucial. For so long, I've avoided intimacy that mattered. And in avoiding it, I almost forgot what it feels like to genuinely want it. Now that I'm older, now that I understand how fast time moves, I don't want to lie to myself anymore. Before there was V, before there was BTS, before any of the fame, there was a kid from Daegu, sitting in a small room, headphones far too big for his head, dreaming of something bigger than his quiet life allowed. I loved sound in all its forms, the rhythm of rain against the window, the chatter of a crowded market, the metallic clatter of the subway. Everything had a pulse, a story, a beat that demanded to be noticed. Music became my refuge, my first home, the only place I felt permission to be fully seen, even if it was only by myself. Hip-hop drew me in because it offered a world where the things you're told to hide could be transformed into something powerful, something that couldn't be ignored. But pursuing this dream meant learning to protect myself in ways I didn't fully understand at the time. Trainee years were relentless. Practice, evaluation, every day a test of endurance. My body hurt, my mind exhausted, and the world seemed to shrink to one room, one dream, one relentless grind. If I liked someone, I swallowed it. If someone liked me, I stepped back. There was always something more urgent than emotions, more practical than love. Feelings became drafts of songs I never finished, notes stored in notebooks at the back of my mind, waiting for a time I didn't believe would come. Fame didn't change that. If anything, it amplified it. People imagine that when you're successful, doubts vanish, insecurities dissolve, and loneliness is cured by applause. But that's not true. The world expects you to be unshakable, confident, perfect even when you feel fragile inside. One project after another, one tour after another, everything moved faster than my heart could process. And in that chaos, I realized something uncomfortable. I was hiding behind my work, using it as a shield. I have no time for love, I told myself. It wouldn't be fair to anyone. But the real truth was fear, fear of being seen fully, fear of disappointment, fear of hurting or being hurt. And yet, amidst all the exhaustion, the routines, the perfectionism, I began noticing patterns in myself. I'd withdraw from people, respond to emotional honesty with humor or silence, convince myself that keeping distance was kindness. But protection can easily become a cage. In guarding myself, I was punishing others for wounds they didn't cause. I was holding them accountable for my own fears. And in doing that, I was isolating myself more than ever. Eventually, I asked myself a difficult question. Do I want to keep living like this, behind walls, safe but lonely? Or do I want to risk being seen, risk vulnerability, and risk love? The answer wasn't immediate. Part of me wanted to stay hidden forever. It was safe, predictable. But another part of me, the part that believes in connection, in hope, in light even after darkness, refused to remain silent. Wanting love doesn't make me weak. Needing warmth doesn't make me less independent. Admitting fear doesn't make me unworthy. It makes me human. So what am I looking for in my next girlfriend? Not perfection. Not someone to fix me. Not a fairy tale or a fan in disguise. I want someone authentic, someone who sees me for who I am, the quiet, distracted, hoodie-wearing Taehyung who sometimes forgets his own phone, who zones out mid-conversation when a melody pops into his head. Someone willing to be vulnerable, to show honesty even when it's scary. Someone who understands what it means to be human, to carry scars, to have failed and learned, to grieve and rebuild. Someone independent with her own passions and routines, whose world orbits mine, not collides with it. I want someone who treasures the small moments, late-night walks, shared earphones, sitting quietly together, conversations that meander without purpose. Someone who values presence over promises, consistency over grand declarations. Someone who loves freely, without ownership, without jealousy, without control. Readiness, not perfection, willingness to grow, to face life's unpredictability together. That's what I want. That's what love looks like to me now. Because I've learned something vital. No one can fix the emptiness inside me. Love is not a cure. It's a choice, an ongoing decision to see another person clearly and to allow yourself to be seen in return. After the applause fades, the lights dim, and the costumes are packed away, what remains is connection, honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to try. And I want to try. Even after years of performing on stages that stretch across continents, I sometimes feel like the quietest moments are the ones I need the most. The noise, the applause, the flashing cameras, they all fade, and then there's only me. Just Taehyung. No stage lights, no choreography, no expectations, just the raw version of myself that I've carried since my childhood in Daegu. I think about that kid often, the one with oversized headphones, scribbling melodies into worn notebooks, dreaming bigger than he thought was allowed. That kid was fragile, unsure, and yet fiercely persistent. He never gave up. Growing up, the world around me demanded practicality. Dreams were secondary to survival. People talked about work, responsibility, making ends meet. Feeling deeply was almost discouraged. To speak of longing, to want something beyond the tangible, was almost considered a distraction. And so I adapted. I shrank myself. I learned to hide. Music became both a shield and a sanctuary. I poured my emotions into melodies, beats, lyrics that no one outside my small room would hear at first. Instead of crying, I composed. Instead of asking for help, I layered rhythms over my fear. And slowly, I built a version of myself the world could admire, a version safe from rejection, safe from heartbreak, safe from being too human. Becoming a trainee intensified that. Long hours, relentless evaluations, expectations that felt impossible to meet. Each day was a test of endurance, patience, and resilience. I watched other trainees, some younger, some more naturally confident, and I wondered if I was enough. Every mistake felt monumental, every compliment suspect. I became a master at hiding behind talent, behind the persona of someone who seemed unshakable. But inside there was a quiet storm, a constant questioning of worth. Love, relationships, they didn't fit into this framework. If I liked someone, I swallowed it. If someone liked me, I stepped back. Emotions became unfinished songs, drafts abandoned because survival came first. And then debut happened. Suddenly, the world opened up in ways I had only imagined. Fame was exhilarating, intoxicating, and at times suffocating. Every success amplified my fears as much as my joy. Fans adored me, the media followed, and the opportunities seemed endless. But underneath all the excitement, there was a persistent, gnawing loneliness. The truth is, the louder the world applauds, the more isolating it can feel. People don't often see the private moments, the hotel rooms, the quiet dinners alone, the long walks in an unfamiliar city with only your thoughts as company. That's when the walls I built around my heart feel the thickest. I started noticing the ways I avoided vulnerability. I laughed when I felt scared. I stayed silent when honesty felt dangerous. I convinced myself distance was kindness. Protection can become a trap, and over time I realized I had trapped myself. I was punishing new connections for past wounds, expecting others to hurt me as previous experiences had. And in doing that, I was alone, not by circumstance but by choice, shaped by fear. Fear is a subtle dictator. It disguises itself as ambition, as responsibility, as selflessness. And it can be convincing enough that you believe it is the only way to survive. But survival isn't living. I knew that eventually. I couldn't outrun the quiet questions anymore. Am I hiding from love because I don't want it or because I'm afraid? Am I pretending I'm too busy because work protects me from intimacy? And the answers weren't simple. Part of me wanted safety, the walls, the predictable solitude. But another part of me, the part that writes songs about hope, love, and connection, refused to stay silent. Wanting someone beside me didn't make me weak. Needing connection didn't make me dependent. Admitting fear didn't make me unworthy. It made me human. So I began imagining what it would be like to share my life with someone, not as an idealized version of me, but as Taehyung, someone who could navigate the quiet, awkward, distracted parts, as well as the exuberance of performing on stage. Someone authentic, someone courageous enough to embrace vulnerability, someone who understands that being human means carrying scars, making mistakes, and continuing to grow. I realized I didn't need perfection. I didn't need someone who fit a pre-made image. I needed presence, honesty, and emotional courage. Small moments became more important in my mind than grand gestures. Walking under the city lights, sharing music late at night, sitting silently in the same room while doing our own things, laughing over takeout meals. These became the kind of intimacy I longed for. I wanted love that was grounded, patient, and consistent. Not flashy declarations or performative affection, but genuine presence. I wanted someone who chose to be with me repeatedly, not out of necessity, but because connection itself was enough. The past had taught me to fear love, to expect disappointment, to anticipate hurt. But now I understood that love is a choice. It's not a cure, it's not a reward. It's a decision to show up fully and honestly, even when scared. I wanted someone who could see me and allow me to see her in return, without conditions or performances. Someone who could navigate life's uncertainties alongside me, not as a follower or a leader, but as an equal partner, orbiting close but never colliding. It wasn't just about romance. It was about reclaiming the parts of myself I had hidden away. The parts that wanted to laugh freely, to cry when overwhelmed, to be comforted and to comfort in return. It was about creating space for connection that didn't revolve around fame, schedules, or expectations. Music had given me a voice, but love could give me understanding, companionship, and depth beyond applause. I began to see that my fears, while protective, were also self-imposed limits. Every wall I built, every mask I wore, every withdrawal from intimacy, it was all designed to prevent hurt. But hurt is part of life. And in avoiding it, I was also avoiding joy, warmth, and genuine connection. The realization was humbling. If I wanted to experience love, I had to risk being vulnerable, even imperfectly. So I started to practice showing up differently. In small ways at first, allowing myself to be honest about thoughts and feelings, letting moments of quiet sit without distraction, noticing the patterns I fell into when feeling scared, and choosing, consciously, to step outside them. It was a slow process, but one that gradually taught me that I didn't have to fear being seen, that the right person wouldn't use my vulnerability against me, but embrace it alongside me. I imagined her not as someone to rescue me from loneliness, but as someone whose presence added to a life already full of meaning. Someone whose laughter, quietude, thoughts, and silences were treasures, not interruptions. Someone I could support, not dominate. Someone who could challenge me gently, share her world, and allow me to share mine. Someone ready, not perfect, aware of her scars, willing to grow with me. That became the standard for what I truly desired. And with that, I began to hope, not for perfection, not for fantasy, but for something real, tangible, and reciprocal. I realized that love wasn't a destination or a reward. It was a journey of showing up, choosing presence, and remaining open despite the risks. That's what I wanted in my next relationship. That's what I had been searching for in all the wrong ways for years. As I continued to reflect on what I wanted from love, I realized that much of my life had been about survival rather than living. The fame, the tour, the constant work, it all demanded endurance. But endurance alone is not enough. You can survive and yet still feel hollow inside. I'd performed for thousands, had my music played worldwide, yet in quiet moments I often felt smaller than ever. There were nights when I'd sit on the edge of a hotel bed, city lights glimmering through the window, and think about the boy I once was, the one who dreamed endlessly in a cramped room, who believed in rhythm even when the world told him to be practical, to be silent. That boy never disappeared. He just learned to hide better. I had built walls so high, so thick, that I didn't realize how isolated I had become. The irony is cruel. In trying to protect myself from hurt, I also shut out joy, warmth, and genuine connection. I feared love because I had always feared loss. Every time someone drew close, I would instinctively pull back, afraid they'd see the parts of me I thought unacceptable. And so I stayed busy, convincing myself that work was the priority, when in reality it was a shield. But the shield became a cage. Looking back, I can see now how often I treated relationships as an obligation to avoid failure rather than an opportunity to grow. I feared giving too much and being left behind. I feared vulnerability. I feared the raw honesty of being truly seen. And yet, ironically, it was in writing music, exposing my thoughts and emotions to millions, that I first practiced being seen, albeit in a controlled way. On stage in lyrics, I could show fragments of my heart safely, sculpted and shaped, but real life demanded a different courage, unfiltered, unpredictable, imperfect. So I began imagining what it would look like to approach love without walls, to seek someone who could meet me in my truth, not my persona. Not the performer, not the idol, not V on stage, but Taehyung, the one who laughs too loudly sometimes, forgets small details, gets lost in thought mid-conversation, wears the same hoodie for days, loses track of time when inspired. Someone who could love me without needing me to be extraordinary all the time. Someone willing to hold space for both the quiet and the chaos, the mundane and the magical. I realized what I wanted was not someone to complete me, to fill some void, or to be my mirror. I wanted someone who would walk beside me, carrying her own life, her own dreams, her own scars, and choose to share that life with me. Independence became essential. I admired people who had their own passions, routines, and goals. Love should never feel like a collision course or a competition. It should feel like two worlds orbiting close, complementing, respecting, growing together. That became one of my clearest realizations. I didn't want to dominate or be dominated. I wanted partnership. Small moments started to feel enormous in my mind. The way someone might smile at nothing in particular, the quiet comfort of shared silence, holding hands on a late-night walk, cooking together in an apartment filled with music and chatter. Those moments became the definition of intimacy for me. I wanted someone who could savor the ordinary, someone who could find beauty not just in concerts and stages, but in mundane routines and quiet evenings. Love, I realized, is built in consistency, in presence, in noticing and choosing to show up for each other, even when the world is unpredictable. And vulnerability, emotional courage was key. I didn't need perfection, I didn't want it. Perfection is lonely. I wanted authenticity, honesty, someone willing to confront fear, disappointment, and past pain and still choose to remain open. Someone who had been hurt, failed, and recovered. Someone who understood that life is imperfect and love is not a fix, but a conscious decision to connect deeply despite the risks. That was more valuable than any idealized image I could imagine. Through this reflection, I also understood the importance of presence over promises. The future is unpredictable, especially in my life, with tour, schedules, and commitments that can shift in an instant. I wanted someone who valued today, someone who could meet me in the present consistently, even without guarantees. Someone whose love wasn't contingent on circumstances, but existed as a choice, moment by moment. Control had always been a comfort to me. Music gave me control over my emotions, over the stories I told. But love doesn't offer that kind of safety. There's no pause button, no edit, no way to perfect a gesture or word before it's received. And that's frightening. But I learned that the very act of letting go of control, of opening oneself to another, is what makes love alive. To truly love, I realized, is to risk discomfort, to embrace unpredictability, to stay open even when fear urges closure. I began to see that I wasn't avoiding love because I didn't want it. I was avoiding it because I cared too much. I cared about being seen, about being known, about exposing the parts of myself that I thought too fragile to survive scrutiny. But in the process of hiding, I also cut off the possibility of connection, the possibility of joy. Recognizing that truth was liberating. I could no longer pretend that work alone, fame alone, achievement alone could fill the quiet spaces in my heart. They could not, only genuine connection could. So I imagined her. Not a fantasy, not a perfection, not someone who would erase my pain or complete me magically. I imagined someone real, flawed, human, and courageous. Someone whose presence enriches life rather than defines it. Someone whose love is a mirror of honesty, vulnerability, and partnership. And with that, a quiet hope emerged. Hope that I could meet someone who could see me fully and still choose to stay. Hope that I could reciprocate that courage. Hope that love could exist outside of fear and expectation. Because I've come to realize that love is not a reward for surviving or achieving. Love is a choice. A choice to show up, to remain open, to embrace the ordinary and extraordinary together. A choice to risk hurt for the possibility of connection. A choice to be human fully with all the mess, wonder, and beauty that entails. That's what I want. That's what I've been searching for. That's what I'm willing to fight for. When I think about the person I want to share my life with, it's not about image, wealth, or status. The world around me is filled with expectations. What a girlfriend of Taehyung should be, how she should behave, what she should like. But those labels mean nothing to me. What matters is authenticity. I need someone who can see the quiet moments and embrace them. Someone who doesn't fall for the stage persona, the flashes of light, or the applause, but who sees Taehyung when the hoodie is worn 3 days in a row, when I forget small things, when my mind drifts into rhythms only I can hear. Emotional courage is another quality I cherish. Vulnerability scares me, but I've learned that it is also the doorway to deep connection. I need someone willing to be scared yet honest, someone who doesn't punish honesty with silence or sarcasm but meets it with warmth and care. Life is imperfect, and so are we. To love someone truly is to embrace their flaws, their scars, their past, just as they embrace yours. Experience matters, too, not in the sense of achievements but in living. I don't need someone who has never been hurt. In fact, I hope she has known failure, loss, and grief. People who have walked through darkness often appreciate light more deeply. They understand that love doesn't erase pain, it walks alongside it. And that understanding is the foundation of intimacy, a bridge between two hearts that have survived their own storms. Independence is crucial. I want someone with her own passions, her own world, her own rhythm. I don't want to be the center of her universe, nor should she be the center of mine. Two complete individuals orbiting close enough to touch, far enough to breathe freely. Love isn't about merging into a single identity. It's about choosing each other while remaining whole. That's a balance I've learned to value deeply. I've also come to appreciate the simple, ordinary moments, the ones most people overlook. Sitting on the floor with takeout, walking silently through a city at night, sharing headphones and music, laughing at nothing in particular. These moments are where real intimacy grows. Love isn't only grand gestures or luxurious experiences. It's presence, consistency, and the choice to be together even when nothing extraordinary is happening. Presence over promises is another essential aspect. The future is unpredictable, especially in my life. There will always be tour, recordings, obligations, and challenges. I don't need grand declarations about forever if we can't be fully present today. Love is shown in actions, in the little things day by day. It's in listening, checking in, holding space, and sharing moments, small yet infinitely meaningful. Non-possession is vital. I've seen the damage that comes when love becomes ownership, control, or jealousy. I want a partner, not someone who confines me or seeks to be confined. Love should be a choice we make each day, not a chain. Mutual support, encouragement to grow, understanding that discomfort can accompany growth. These are what I want. Partnership, not imprisonment. Readiness, not perfection, matters too. No one has a flawless life, and no one is ever completely free of baggage. I want someone aware of her scars, willing to reconcile with them and ready to move forward alongside me. Love requires work, patience, and courage. It's about choosing to navigate life together, imperfections and all, not waiting for ideal conditions that will never arrive. Reflecting on all of this, I realize how much I used to believe that a relationship could fix me. I thought that finding the right person would fill the emptiness inside, heal my fears, or make me feel enough. That was a heavy burden to place on anyone. Love isn't a cure. It's an invitation to confront yourself, to grow, and to connect. I had to face myself first, to understand my worth, my limits, my needs, and my capacity to love. Only then could I be ready to share that life authentically with someone else. I've spent years perfecting music, performances, and the public persona, but I've spent less time perfecting the way I show up in love. That's what I'm committed to now, not striving for perfection, but striving for honesty, presence, and vulnerability. To open my heart, even when fear tempts me to close it. To choose connection, even when solitude feels safer. To embrace love as a practice, not a prize. And so I keep imagining her. The woman who can walk beside me in life, who sees me, not the image of me, who shares in quiet, in music, in laughter, in struggles. Someone who doesn't need to rescue me, nor does she expect to be rescued. Someone who is real, alive, and willing to navigate the unpredictability of life alongside me. That's what I want, that's what I hope for, and that's what I am ready to pursue with courage. Because love in its truest form isn't about safety, convenience, or control. It's about risk, presence, and mutual growth. It's about choosing each other not out of necessity but out of desire, respect, and shared humanity. And for the first time, I feel ready to make that choice fully, without masks, without walls, and without fear dictating my decisions. Looking back, I realize that every stage I stood on, every spotlight I stepped into, every cheer I heard, it was all a mirror reflecting parts of myself I didn't fully understand. I learned to thrive in noise, to survive under pressure, to pour emotion into music. But what fame, success, and accolades could never teach me was how to truly open my heart to another person, how to be vulnerable without protection, how to let love in without fear controlling me. I am Taehyung, but I am also just a man. Not invincible, not always confident, not always composed. I carry the same fears and doubts that any human carries, only magnified by the world's eyes upon me. I've lived behind masks for so long that taking them off feels like stepping into unknown territory. But I've learned that love, genuine love, cannot exist behind masks. It requires honesty, courage, and trust, not just in another but in yourself. The person I seek isn't perfect. She's human. She's made mistakes, learned from them, endured hardships, and emerged with her heart intact. She values authenticity over image, presence over promises, and connection over control. She doesn't need to fix me, nor do I need to fix her. We are not looking for someone to complete us, but to walk beside us, supporting each other's growth while embracing life's imperfections together. I want someone who finds joy in small moments, the quiet laughter over shared meals, the comfort of walking side by side without speaking, the peace of doing nothing yet feeling fully alive together. These are the moments where intimacy grows, where love is nurtured, and where life feels rich, not because it is perfect, but because it is shared honestly. Independence remains central to my vision. We are two worlds, whole on our own, choosing to orbit near each other, learning from, inspiring, and uplifting one another. There is freedom in that choice, freedom from possession, jealousy, and expectation. Love should never feel like a cage. It should be a sanctuary, a space where vulnerability is met with acceptance, where mistakes are met with understanding, and where presence is the greatest gift offered and received. I've spent decades crafting art, rhythms, and performances that resonate with millions, yet I now understand that the truest connection, the kind that will sustain me in life, is not found in applause, not in accolades, not in fame. It is found in being fully known and still accepted, in choosing someone every day in presence, in care, in honesty. That is what I want from my next love. And so here I am, not perfect, not fearless, not fully ready, but willing. Willing to show up, willing to be honest, willing to embrace risk, willing to let someone see all of me, the light and the shadow. I can't promise a life without challenges or pain, but I can promise that when love comes, I will meet it as fully as I can. I will choose to stay, to be present, to give care, and to accept care in return. For anyone listening, anyone searching, anyone afraid of love because it feels unsafe, know this: wanting love does not make you weak. Being afraid does not make you unworthy. Taking your time to heal does not make you behind schedule. Love is not about perfection. It is about courage. It is about connection. It is about choice. And you are never too broken, too scarred, or too cautious to be seen and loved for who you truly are. As I imagine the life I hope to build with someone, I see laughter, music, quiet nights, spontaneous adventures, mutual growth, and countless shared moments. I see the ordinary elevated by the extraordinary care and presence of two people who choose each other over and over. I see love not as a cure, but as a companion, a guide, a mirror reflecting both the beauty and the humanity we carry within ourselves. And in that vision, I also see myself. The boy from Daegu, headphones too big for his head, dreaming endlessly. The young man who learned to survive behind walls of caution. The artist who poured his fears, doubts, and passions into music to communicate what he could not yet say aloud. And now, the man ready to live not just in music, but in love, in connection, in presence, fully and unguarded. That is what I am seeking, what I hope for, and what I am willing to pursue with all that I have. Because at the end of everything, the stages, the applause, the achievements, the most meaningful moments will not be those recorded or broadcasted. They will be the quiet evenings, the shared smiles, the vulnerable conversations, the gentle, steadfast love that reminds you you are fully alive and seen. So when love knocks, I will answer. Not with perfection, not with certainty, not with control, but with openness, honesty, courage, and willingness. I will choose love again and again, not because it is easy, but because it is the only way to truly live. And that is the journey I am ready to take. That is the story I am ready to write, not in music alone, but in life itself. As I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize that love is not a reward. It's not a medal to win, a goal to achieve, or a validation of worth. It is a living, breathing choice that demands attention, courage, and vulnerability. And I've spent so long avoiding it, hiding behind masks, behind music, behind busyness, thinking I was protecting myself. What I was actually protecting was my comfort, my sense of control, my fear of being truly seen. The truth is, I am ready. Ready to be seen not as Taehyung the performer, the global idol, or the persona the world applauds, but as Taehyung the man, the person who laughs awkwardly, who forgets small things, who sometimes zones out when a melody catches his mind, who dreams loudly and feels deeply. I want someone who can meet me there without pretension, without expectation, with only honesty and curiosity. I've realized that the walls I built for protection have also been prisons. I've learned that solitude can be safe, but it can also be lonely. I've learned that love is not a distraction from life's demands. It is part of what makes life worth living. And I've learned that no matter how high the applause, how bright the spotlight, or how loud the crowd, nothing fills the void of genuine connection except another human being willing to see you fully and accept you completely. To the person I hope to meet one day, know this. I do not seek perfection, nor do I seek someone who needs saving. I seek a companion, a partner, a fellow traveler through life's unpredictable journey. Someone whose presence adds meaning not out of necessity but because it enriches what is already there. Someone who sees me, the real me, and chooses to walk beside me through light and shadow, laughter and tears, growth and mistakes. And to everyone listening, navigating love, life, and the weight of expectations, I want to share this truth. It is okay to be afraid. It is okay to have scars. It is okay to take your time to heal and to grow. What matters is that you keep your heart open, that you choose connection, that you allow yourself to be fully human. Vulnerability is not weakness. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. As for me, I don't know when or where I'll meet her. I don't know if the timing will be perfect. But I do know this: I'm ready to try, to show up, to be honest, to be present, to embrace love as it comes, messy and imperfect, with all the fear, joy, and hope it carries. And I hope one day I can look back and say that I didn't just write about love in my songs. I lived it fully, bravely, and without regret. The boy from Daegu, the young man who dreamed with headphones too big for his head, is still in me. The artist who learned to survive behind walls of caution is still in me. But so is the man who is learning to open those walls, to let light in, to let someone see him as he truly is. And that is the journey I am committed to. That is the love I am ready to embrace. That is the story I hope to write, not only in music but in life. So when love comes, whether quietly or loudly, I will answer. With my heart open, with my hands extended, with the courage to be seen, and with the willingness to see fully in return. Because at the end of all the noise, the stages, the lights, the applause, the achievements, what truly matters is connection, presence, and love shared genuinely, freely, and without reservation. That is the life I want. That is the love I seek. And that is the choice I am ready to make.